I don't see myself as black.
What do you see yourself as?
I'm a white person. I don't see myself as black.
What do you see yourself as?
I'm a white person.
You live the Afrikaans culture. I mean, your man is Afrikaans.
I don't identify as being black. I was brought up white, so I couldn't learn how to be black. I always thought of marrying a white man. I never had the opportunity to learn from black people. So I'm white.
Yes. So she's saying, I don't see myself to be black. I see myself as white, which is very true. Because, as I said, there is not a single person on this planet Earth who is white, because we all know how white color looks like. Have you ever, in your traveling, see somebody look like this? Have you ever come across somebody like this? No. We have Europeans. And the white, so-called white race was created even before the early 17th centuries. There was not a single white person on this planet Earth. And European historians are telling us that. I am not saying it. A European historian told us that. Let's watch it.
Let's remember, during the colonial period, mid-1600s, there was no such thing as white people. I know some people who are now called white find that shocking, right? Because they think whiteness is real. Right? But whiteness was created. Europeans didn't call themselves white. We didn't call ourselves white. We weren't all members of one big happy family. Are you kidding? Have you studied the history of Europe? The history of Europe was about killing each other. That's what we did in Europe. We just killed each other before we figured out there were other people to kill. We just killed each other, right? I mean, that was the history of Europe. The English hated the Irish, right? Northern Italians didn't even think that Southern Italians were Italians. The Germans hated everybody, and everybody hated their ass right back, right? There was no team called white, no race called white, but all of a sudden, in the middle of the 1600s, there was. Why? Why was it suddenly necessary to create this thing called the white race? Well, because rich people can count, that's why. And so rich folks looked around, the ones that owned all the land, you know, in the colonies, the colonial elite, looked around and they realized something, that they were heavily outnumbered by African enslaved folks, by European indentured servants, who were just one level above a slave, or other Europeans who weren't technically indentured servants, but they were still peasants, didn't have any money, didn't have any land, and they could do the math. They added it up and they were like, damn, we got to figure out a way to split these folks apart from one another, or they're going to rise up and take our stuff, right? Because after a while, these black folks who were enslaved Africans and these quote-unquote white folks who were poor Europeans are going to figure out they're all getting played by these rich people, right? So ultimately, the rich figure out they got to come up with some way to get somebody in that group on their team. The easiest thing is to get the poor Europeans, right? Because at least they look like you. They sort of share some of the customs and the culture. So they all of a sudden create this thing called whiteness, and they say, now you're part of the club. Now we're going to let you testify in court, enter into contracts, vote, at least if you're a man, own a little bit of land, at least if you're a man, right? And we're going to get rid of indentured servitude. No more of that, because you're too good for that. And we're going to take the white men, now called white men, and put them on the slave patrol to keep black people in line. Give them a horse and a gun and a badge and make them feel big and powerful, right? They're still poor. They still don't have anything. They didn't pay the slave patrol well, right? just exploited them, used them as a buffer between the elite and the other poor folks, particularly poor folks of color. And pretty soon the rebellions that occasionally happened where black and white got together to overthrow the elite, those stopped because the divide and conquer had begun to work, right? You could turn people against each other by telling those poor white folks they got to keep these black people in line. And so that divide and conquer gets initiated in the colonies. Rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown.
Yes. So before the Haitian, So before the Haitian Revolution, there was not a single white person on this planet Earth. There were Europeans, there were Polish, there were Irish, there were English, there were French, German. That is how the Europeans identified themselves. But after we defeated them in the Haitian Revolution, after our ancestors, and it was Africans who led some of the European enslaved people. Because remember, Europeans were also enslaved. They couldn't have done what they did to us if they were not already doing it to themselves. So the Europeans were treating themselves the same way they were treating us. So they were European slaves. And this is some of the history that we have to know, so that our people will not be going around the world thinking that slavery started with us as African people. The word slave originated from the word Slav, the Slavic people. They were enslaving themselves. Western Europe, the English people were enslaving the Irish. The English people were enslaving the Scottish. The Romans enslaving the English. The German people enslaving the Polish. So there were slaves in the plantations who were Europeans as well. So they realized that they are all catching the same hell. So they came together, led by an African general in Haiti, who defeated all the European powers. We are coming to do that once again. It started in the Sahel. We will defeat all of them. So when we defeated them, then they now go and say, we have to come out with a strategy to divide some of these Europeans from the Africans. So how do you do that? We have to create the race color. So the Africans should be seen as black, and they are at the bottom. The Americans, red, they are not red. The Chinese, yellow, they are not yellow. But we, the Europeans, we are white. But in reality, as I said, have you ever come across something like this? No, it's a deception. It's an illusion. So if our sister is saying that she sees herself to be white, I understand her perfectly. I understand her, because you have to believe in lies, and she believed in lies. You have to believe in lies to be seen as a white person. If not, if your mind is working correctly, then you will know that there is not a single white person. Yes, there are black people on this planet Earth. You go to some part of Africa, you will see the skin so dark, so pure and beautiful, like so dark. You see it. So we have black people. But for white people, you will never see a white person on this planet Earth. It doesn't exist. It's an illusion. It's a lie. It was created by European chiefs, European colonial criminal chiefs. They created it to divide Africans from Europeans, so that they will not unite, because these were people who were all catching hell in the plantations. And as I said, these are some of the things that we have to be teaching black children. Because today you're going to see somebody coming from Eastern Europe, from Poland, and then he think he's superior to somebody from Africa. Why? Because he think that the Africans were enslaved. But in reality, the Polish people were also enslaved. There were Polish slaves in the Caribbean. There were Scottish slaves, Irish slaves in the plantations. So it wasn't only us that were enslaved. The Europeans have always been enslaving themselves until they come across us and they see that we are, according to what historians are telling us, even an African female was sold at the same price as a European male. So if the African were being bought, if an African male were being bought for, let's say, $10, then the African woman is bought for, let's say, $5, then the European man also is bought for the same $5 because they think that the European man and the African man have the same strength. That is how they were treating our people. So until our people realized the Europeans who were catching hell came together with the Africans, so they stand up and fight against the system. And today, I think that is what the world required. So when they did that, they now came out with this thing called color division, creating color. White Europeans are white, but in reality, Europeans are not. So if our sister is saying that she is white, I understand her. You have to believe in lies to be called yourself white. You have to believe in lies. You have to believe in illusion. You have to be delusional to consider yourself white, because in reality, it doesn't exist. I have a lot of conversation with Europeans, and I ask them these questions, and it makes sense to them. But many people don't know. So our sister, I don't see anything wrong with what she's saying. Yes, she's not black. She's white, because whiteness is all about the mindset. Whiteness is an ideology. It's not a race. White is not a race. It's an ideology that they have that idea. They created it. You understand? So yes, our sister have the ever right, and as my sister, I support you. You are white, because it's all about how you want to see yourself. If you are a liar, just as she is, then she is white. Because just as the Europeans also believe in lies, they call themselves white. What is your problem with that? I don't have no problem with that. I thank you very much for coming around. I am a missionary, and my mission is all about the unity and the dignity of Africa. If African people have dignity, our sister will not be delusional and be living a lie. She's living a life full of lies. Please support our mission. Southern Africa, we are coming very soon. Support our mission. Let us fight for a united, dignified Africa. How do you support us? Is by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Let us take our YouTube channel to 10K, please. And also follow us on Facebook, One African Mission. On TikTok, One African Mission. We are on a mission until we regain back our dignity and see ourselves as children of Mother Africa. Thank you very much.